final day of PAX West live here in Seattle, Washington, and the final opportunity as 4 teams battle to find themselves the glory here in North America, find themselves that first place, crown themselves North American champion, and look to move on to BlizzCon. A very warm welcome here to the Analysis Concave, as my name is James Kyle Carroll, and joining me to the left, of course, once again, we have Mr. Dunkus Tranius, and then we have Dreddy, and he's naughty. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome for what is sure to be a fantastic day for the final day here of our regional. And boys, I'm excited to see how these 4 teams are going to play it out.
It's going to be a weird day. I think it's going to confirm a lot of questions that we had during the first 2 days that we saw from some of these teams. And I think right now my confidence is all in Naventic compared to some of the other teams. They look the strongest in their first showing.
They did look the strongest, but I think Denial is going to have some tricks up their sleeves. We saw a lot of weird stuff out of them, and we saw some weird stuff out of Murlocs. And I think either one of them could trip Naventic up.
It's short to say that with all of the changes that rapidly happen in Heroes of the Storm, the North American scene is in a state of flux right now in terms of what they actually want to do in their approach to the game. And it's created some fantastic moments, to be perfectly honest with you, and some very, very diverse drafts, I think is fair to say.
Diverse is an optimistic word, I would say. We have seen...
I'm a glass half full kind of guy, right?
Okay, well, that makes one of us. I mean, those drafts were off the charts. There was stuff going around that we had never seen before. Interactions we had talked about but hadn't seen in actual play. So it was really fun to see how the teams valued Ariel and Medivh differently between the 2 days.
Yeah, it's crazy what we've seen when it comes to some of the drafting. Some trends we've almost never seen before, where a hero, the medic ban, but almost very little play, is something we've almost never seen that type of strategy coming out. So I agree. It is maybe an optimistic way to put it, but overall it has developed some pretty beautiful moments and some sad ones at times.
It's fair to say that the culmination of these teams' efforts will come to a conclusion here, whether or not they will actually take that second BlizzCon spot in North America. Of course, as a whole, the global circuit for fall has been raging across the world currently, as we have many a team already qualified here for BlizzCon. Today, we determine which team will be second coming out of North America. Very excited to find who is going to come out. Of course, we had Group A and B throughout the first 2 days here at PAX West, with Group A culminating in Murloc Geniuses and Denial Esports. Denial Esports obviously taking that first place spot there in Group A, and then heading over to Group B. We saw Gale Force Esports actually fall out of the tournament, and as Dredd rightfully said, the first time ever Fan will not be making a location when it comes to it. But of course, we do have the 2 teams moving on forwards. Dredd?
Slightly wrong about that. There's still an opportunity. It's a lifeline. Murloc Geniuses is the lifeline. Much like Fnatic, it still is going to BlizzCon because they had the opportunity to get through. That was, I was a little heated. Kind of forgot that. There is still an opportunity, but it's not looking bright for them, right? Like, they do have that opportunity, but there are 3 teams that could easily take out Murloc Geniuses right now.
Yes, absolutely. No question about that. And even if you can't already count them out of BlizzCon, it is the first time Fan hasn't made a finals in North America.
Yep.
So that in itself is kind of crazy.
Well, exactly. I need to actually highlight this, and it's a very good point that you do bring up here, is that there is the potential today that we have a tiebreaker here for the second spot at BlizzCon. The reason being is that GFE, at our first fall regional, was able to take second spot to Murloc Geniuses. If Murloc Geniuses is successful in defending their North American title, then that would mean GFE would go up against second place from fall regional number 2. Which is very, very important. For now, though, we can check in with some other very, very familiar faces over at the Xfinity casting desk.
Well, Jake, we're here on the last day, and this is pretty incredible, the fact that we see Astral Authority here. I mean, it's a day that I don't think we expected, but pretty hyped, to say the least.
No, I mean, I'm so happy for him with Equinox coming back. We've got iDream coming back. 2 players, 1 on each team that took 1 event off here to battle it out. I can't wait to see what they have in store.
I mean, I'm pretty excited. I mean, the whole day today, I think, is going to be something that we're probably not used to, as the guys already talked about, the potential for the playoff, which I had the privilege in the European regional just a couple weeks ago, and it was a lot of excitement throughout the day because there's still a lot that can happen.
There's tons that can happen, but we'll throw it back to the panel for them to carry it on.
That's right. Thank you very much, guys. Of course, that is a huge potential towards the later end of the day. Of course, we have a guaranteed 3 best-of-5s to start things off, our 2 semifinals and our grand final. And we can take a look at that and how it all shapes up here in the American region to figure out who is going to be moving on to the grand final and then potentially taking that spot at BlizzCon. Later on in the day, we will have Team Neventic going up against Murloc Geniuses after Neventic showed fantastic play yesterday. Murloc Genius is showing wild variety in their strategies, but we will be starting the day off with Denial Esports going up against Astral Authority. Both teams had a very different road to get here to the semi-final. Denial Esports in day number 1 looked fantastic compared to what we've seen from them before, especially in our first regional for fall. And then Astral Authority, a little bit of a rocky start to everything, but when it came to that final series to knock out GFE from the tournament, good stuff.
I think both these teams actually have to be given some credit for how much improvement they've shown. Since the last regional, at least Astral Authority even longer. I mean, they have been, on the cusp of breaking into top 4 for a while. And it's actually really interesting to see them progress, and they played really well against GFE in that set.
No, they did. They legitimately capitalized almost every mistake that had happened on the side of Gale Force Esports. They did a very good job of just constantly going in, even some of the picks, hiding in some shrubs that they knew Gale Force would not expect. Yeah. It was a very impressive showing on their half. Very well done. And then Denial, I think, is the one who's probably impressed me the most. Mainly because it feels like, for instance, some of the comps we saw Denial running, it felt very Immortals Cloud9-y, where it's a composition that thrives more on your opponent not knowing the answer to solving the problem that is this weird composition.
I think we can actually take a look, firstly, at Astral Authority here as a team coming into this first semi-final. And one thing that I want to highlight is that yesterday, obviously, some of the games, they were a bit rocky here and there, whatever. GFE had a bit of a hard time. But one thing that really stood out to me is that Astral Authority was able to be very opportunistic about that. Took it with both hands and completely ran with it, especially in that last game where they basically dominated the mistakes that were made by GFE, Dread.
Yeah, it was insane. There was almost no situation where they just didn't capitalize on the misplay on the side of Gale Force Esports, and that's one of the first signs of a great team is how effective you are at punishing your opponents. First is how well can you just manipulate the map and the game in the way that you want to, and the second is when your opponent somehow gets the upper hand, how do you make sure they don't get as much out of it as they possibly can? And Astral Authority was, without a doubt, the best team at that in their first showing.
And then, of course, on the other side of things here in the semi-final, it is Denial Esports, a team with now iDream on their side. And, oh boy, this 3/5 of the ex-Cloud9 roster certainly have taken to flight. Compared to what we saw in their previous regional, which was a huge disappointment for a lot of people, this one along for the ride dunk has been good for them.
It has so far. And they've shown off some crazy things, too, which I really like. This team, at least on Cloud9, which is 3 out of 5 of these guys, we always loved being the ones bringing the weird things to the table.
Right.
We loved asking the questions. Like Dread said, there's a difference. Sometimes when you're playing a game, you'll play standard, and all you're doing is answering your opponent's question, and that's fine. But we like to be the ones innovating on the front edge.
Yes.
Ask those questions that everybody's like, how do we deal with this? We have not seen this before. So I think if Denial can keep that going and has enough strategies in reserve, they'll be able to take this set.
They seem to have come in confident of Denial Esports after speaking to them just a little bit. They said that they, even in their interview on the first day, they said they still had a lot available to them. But talking to them just before this series, they were like, we think we can play standard and still do extremely well against Astral Authority to the point where we would get a clean sweep. Is that something that's fair to say here, Dread, in terms of skill difference?
I mean, I would like to say yes, but at the same time, Astral Authority does seem like they've kind of found themselves in this tournament a bit, right? So I think the results and the practicing that happened before this tournament, Denial feels like they're like, it's Astral Authority, this is going to be free.
Yeah.
But at the same time, even if it is a standard composition, at the same time, it feels like Astral has kind of found a rhythm that has almost never existed before, and it feels like they found it in the middle of the tournament.
All right. Oh, this is fantastic. This is exactly what we wanted to see at the very start of the tournament here, or at least at the start of day number 3. We're into the draft powered by Auros, and it will be the Medivh first pick. We were talking about this morning, Dread, how fantastic that could potentially be.
Yeah, the fact that they denied it, they took it away from Denial Esports, which we knew was going to be a core of some of their compositions. The Brightwing, the Ariel, and the Medivh are all things that we're looking out for Denial, so I like that Astral has finally decided to pick it up for themselves.
Not only that, what is the Abathur ban in the first slot as first pick? That's insane. We've seen some Abathur bans in the second round, but even then it's a little rare. So that's insane to me. Neither of these teams has picked up Falstad yet either on one of his best maps with that global.
And with the Greymane picked up and with the Brightwing as well, these are trends that we've already seen from Denial Esports. Falstad is a hero that a majority of these teams consider to be one of the best in the game, and he's untouched. I think it's that rotation of Denial. It shows they're not willing to play the meta. They've already built exactly what they think is pretty good, and they're not willing to adjust that. That makes them pretty predictable and also very easy to make major adjustments in a draft phase.
I mean, overall, I just want to come back to the Medivh first pick. Surely Denial Esports knew coming into this series that it had to be quite highly contested. So surely going into this draft, they have to have some plans around it, right? There has to be something.
I'm sure they have played enough with Medivh and against Medivh to know what they can do against it, but Astral Authority's composition so far looks just rock solid. I mean, we've talked about Li Ming all event being one of the best range damage dealers. Muradin has really proved himself to be an amazing tank. And I think Medivh is one of the best counters to the Greymane because it just denies the all-in kill pressure that he thrives on.
Yeah, it's an absolutely phenomenal tool to have on their side. Also, Brightwing typically excels in situations to where she gets the polymorph and the kill potential happens during that time. But with how frequent we have the Medivh shield up, again, it is a soft response to what is the composition of Denial Esports. And the ban onto Kerrigan and the response of Zeratul. I love the fact that they're removing these type of heroes from Denial Esports, because if Glorong wasn't going to be on the Greymane, if they decide to try and put iDream or somebody else onto it, it's two characters we know Glorong is good at already going to be removed.
And it just shows that StarCraft is OP because every single ban is StarCraft. So, of course, very good. Falstad Tassadar gets picked up on the other side for Denial Esports. Wow, so the final slot for them could easily be a Leoric, and they would have the ideal comp for, well, semi-ideal comp for them in terms of like comfort picks.
It is very comfortable for them. I'm a little bit surprised to see Tassadar get prioritized over Auriel.
Yes,
Throughout
I agree.
most of the tournament, we've actually seen Auriel picked over Tassadar. Have we even seen a Tassadar at the tournament? Maybe one or two?
I don't think so.
Yeah, so Auriel has really been outstanding, and I'm just really surprised to see the TAS come in over that pick. That everyone thought that was the new hot. It was even drawing first bans, and now it's been completely ignored.
Yeah, I agree. I expected that to be in Auriel as well, the Brightwing Auriel pairing. But I guess they have a different plan here. We'll see what they end up going with. And almost, I have no idea, I guess. They have a lot of options they can still move in, even with, like, it's going to be, I'm guessing, a Leoric?
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
I think so. I mean,
but I don't think they have to, right? Like, it's what they've been playing recently.
Yeah. Looking at the Tassadar pickup, it's like, I think it's the third Tassadar of the tournament. So you're right, it's been very uncommon for sure. And one of those was with the Tracer, which you kind of go to anyway when it comes to that comp. But Auriel and Lunara being picked up here. Overall, the Lunara not having the most comfortable time to do damage because it is a Brightwing and Tassadar, but at the same time, it's coupled with an Auriel. So it's super efficient.
I'm really concerned about Denial's composition here. I feel like Astral Authority just has unbelievable range damage, plus they can absolutely abuse the tribute channels on this map. Whereas I look at Denial's composition, I mean, Greymane, Falstad, they're good, but I do not think they're packing the raw damage to actually cut through the Medivh Auriel.
Yeah, I think because the map is Cursolo, Denial Esports has to rely on their double global, and then also preying off the idea that a lot of teams do struggle with the micro decision-making necessary to be able to deal with Leoric. I agree with you. On many fronts, I feel like their composition's inferior. It only excels with the all-in burst-esque style play, but it doesn't do well into a Medivh Auriel. Both are heavy momentum killers when it comes to team fights. Because of that, I want to see Falstad move to auto-attack build. Their composition is not going to be successful in burst fights. They will not win those fights almost ever unless there's a colossal misplay on the side of Astral. Start focusing for those long team fights.
I've got to ask the question then, coming into this first game in this first draft. It's a two-part question. One, did you expect Astral Authority to come in as strongly in the draft as we've just seen them? And two, is this the best Astral Authority we have seen in the past 4 regionals?
Yes to both?
Absolutely. I mean, no question. It's just the cleanest Astral Authority has drafted, played, They have a wider variety of styles, and they've shown that they can draft to their opponent, which is something that a lot of teams are not doing right now in North America, especially the lower seed teams.
And I mean, not only that, when we look at Astral Authority in the past, and especially when it had the involvement of Equinox, it's been very much get Equinox, the Kerrigan, get him to Illidan, play that composition. We see that with Glarung as well. In the past, it has almost always been get them these characters, try and build a composition around them, and hope that it works out. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. And so for the first time, we see Equinox having influence in the team, the positive success that they've had with them, but it's not the Equinox show. It is watch the entire Astral Authority come together and build a pretty well-rounded team.
All right, well, Denial Esports have come into this series confident, but Astral Authority is putting up the blockade and is saying no as they come in with a strong draft. Boys, who are you looking to here to make the plays in game number 1?
King Caffeine really has to abuse the Leorici passive. He is going to need to get so much value out of that, and his Entombs are going to have to be saved for after the Crystal Aegis.
I think it's going to come down to iDream on the false set. Their Gus and the decision-making on him has to be perfect this whole game.
All right, we're heading over to the Xfinity Casters for game number 1 here of day 3.
Thanks so much, guys, and welcome to Cursed Hollow, the first game of the playoffs. We've got Astral Authority versus Denial Esports in a best-of-5 series.
I mean, best-of-5 always brings something different to the table. Normally, you lose game number 1 in a best-of-3, and all of a sudden, you're like, wait a minute, we could be out, but it's a much different story here in the playoffs. So, Astral Authority versus Denial, I love what Astral Authority is bringing in game number 1.
I mean, just grabbing that Medivh, it's almost like they're stealing the meta that Denial was trying to form in Group A in the first day of this tournament, but it's so very fun seeing these kind of mix-ups happen. K1 Pro on that Tassadar does have a similar effect to the Medivh style, and we'll see how it all pans out. But I'm actually rather surprised to see K1 on the Tassadar rather than one of the playmaker heroes like Falstad.
Yeah, and it's something that we talked about over here right during the draft phase. K1 Pro plays a very, very phenomenal Falstad. I mean, he's actually one of the better ones that we've had traditionally. So, as you say, that could just be something. But the interesting rotation here is a 3-person rotation down in the bottom lane. It's going to force a response out of one of those global heroes to make use of that, and that's exactly what they do as Brightwing comes down to the bottom.
Yeah, just so much pressure, though. Already 1 tower down and forcing the 4th man down. K1 Pro just poking in, realizing they're not going to be able to punish, now retreating away. Medivh has been flying in his bird form above the bird of Falstad in the top, just taunting him, making sure to get his soak as often as possible. But all things considered, Astral, they do have the superior position on the map right now.
You know, it was actually, I think it was a question you actually asked Equinox yesterday about the different heroes that he's been running. It's something that, we don't see traditionally out of Equinox. We see him on those heavy dive heroes, but we see him here on Medivh. I mean, this guy is literally playing everything this weekend.
Yeah, a variety of styles from tank to the melee assassin, now to the specialist that is Medivh. His one break off with the first fall regional, taking that off, having some time to just kind of sit back and expand his hero pool, it's really showing in this event.
I actually really like it in the fact that we've always known Equinox to be a really good player. Sometimes he goes a little bit too hard on some of those heroes, but he's always looked good on the heroes that he's on. But now, as the panel talked about, is the fact that we see a different Astral Authority. It's no longer Equinox go in and let's see if we can make something happen. This is a full team effort. I love it. Level 4 about to be picked up, and the tribute's coming as well soon.
Yep, so both teams just splitting up, grabbing the Giants. Going to be the Greymane getting it first. Li Ming will take a bit longer. And then we will have that tribute spawning before long. Now, this is the state of the game where if the tribute spawns in the top, it's slightly in favor of Denial. If it spawns in the bottom, it's slightly in favor of Astral. But Trees was unable to solo that, ends up having to hearth back.
A little bit difficult as Li Ming to solo those camps, but he is going to hearth back to be in time as this first tribute is going to be spawning here in 10 seconds. Both teams prioritizing the siege camp. If this fight drags on, the benefit is going to be for Astral Authority because it's going to be pushing the lane completely on the opposite end of the map.
Yeah, they do have the false side global, which is a nice benefit, but obviously that's not something that Dream wants to hang around with for too long. If the fight does get dicey and he's not there, could cost them. But Medivh is opting to stay in the top lane as well, so it will be a 4v4 hero for the tribute.
And the fact that they have Oriole down here, I mean, it's just really interesting to see how well they survive. I mean, Oriole contributes a lot of heals, and then of course you can spread that damage with Lunar, really stack up that energy. So I'm curious how long this fight is actually going to drag on. And again, if Falstad's going to be forced to join or whether he's going to be forced to defend.
Yeah, he was actually feigning a fly down, but he's maintaining his spot. The Giants have nearly gotten that tower here in the bottom. That would be a nice surge of XP towards level 7. But the tower will retain its life here in the bottom lane. Chimera trying to get the channel. Looks like he will actually be able to get it here. The Arcade Flare not going to be able to get there in time, so the first tribute goes to Astral Authority.
It just seems like that's going to favor a lot of what Astral wants to do. They have superior poke when you look at Lunar and Li Ming especially, and then of course the heals that are going to be there to be able to help sustain, and then Equinox getting in and out. It looks like iDream is starting to even things up just a little bit by putting some damage back on there. So this is actually a really interesting match to see who gets the better of this top lane.
Well, level 7 is here on the side of Denial. Should be Master's Touch here for Equinox on that Medivh, so he's going to start trying to farm that up. Now we're going to see Dream possibly play a little bit more safely. He doesn't want to get hit by those Qs and help that quest essentially get filled up, because once you do get that all completed at level 7, it is monstrously powerful. It's a huge power spike from Medivh.
Yeah, that permanent damage, of course, once you get it completed. The interesting thing that we've been seeing a lot of out of this weekend is Splintered Spear for Lunara. There's been so much Nature's Toxin, and it's something that I had a discussion with on Gilly about, like, it's 100% pick on certain maps. And then other maps, we've seen a little bit different approach, and this is one of the ones to where if you're trying to do something different, you can do it here. I just wonder how much spread damage you're going to get out of a mostly ranged comp there, but Leoric got to be the first to die here.
Yeah, and Dream going to just barely get away with that barrel roll. Sure, Leoric will be able to respond quickly, but the first pick, just putting Astral even better in a better position. I mean, as they have the first tribute, they're now set up for the second tribute. Dream is very low in the back end. Needs to be careful. Probably going to be able to tap him. No, he has to Hearth back. That's very unfortunate.
That'd be nice detainment strike there, but the Psystorm coming in from K1 Pro.
And I don't know if they can keep stalling this out, just that Lunara damage is too much. Even with Fawcett flying back in, too little, too late, 2 tributes to Astral Authority.
I mean, this is just the poke comp dream on Cursed Hollow, and of course that works really well, and then you add Medivh in there and you'd be able to punish that. But look at that, making use of Brightwing flying in. They are threatening this top fort, so much so that we see a response out of Astral Authority as Battery starts to make his way up on Muradin, but now iDream's coming up to join the party as well.
Now, I like this call to try to force their position and kind of force the situation. Good juke there by Dream as well, because they know they are closer to level 10. If they can, like, force a bad rotation on the side of Astral Authority, that's how they put themselves in the advantageous position for that third tribute.
You talked about that. Level 10 is very, very close, and the next tribute should be spawning on a friendly side this time for Denial Esports, as level 10 has been picked up. Nothing out of the ordinary. Everything would pretty much expect coming out for Denial Esports. Level 10 should be here momentarily for Astral.
Yeah, I just love this style. It's going to allow Glaude to be a little bit more in the face as Greymane, because when we have the Brightwing giving him that face shield, then you have the Emerald Wind to give him this big buffer of space. Also, in the event that Medivh is being over-aggressive with the teleporter, the portal, but Emerald Wind can be a huge utility for making plays.
I mean, you force them off of it. You don't allow them to go back in that portal, and you can isolate them and get right on that. But level 10 is here for both teams, and it's time for the next tribute. I'm curious how aggressive Astral Authority will be. They don't necessarily need this, but they have that poke comp that we talked about, and this is going to be the first time I think we're going to see a team fight, because Denial cannot give this up.
Now, the benefit here for Denial is they do have the Siege Giant camp that just got pushed out in bottom from Falstad. So that will net them a strong push in the bottom lane if this is drawn out. But they need to take the fight here and now. A lot of damage going in, but Ariel has no issues healing through this, already at full energy once more.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of an interesting thing, because Leoric, she kind of got trapped in the middle there. Leoric got good value as he continues to just drain the life out of the members of Astral Authority. But as you talked about, look how much energy and that huge heal coming out from Ariel. And this is just, look at the health bars here. Astral Authority, very, very healthy. Caffeine going down. The shield's coming out from Tassadar. It just seems like right now Denial is fighting a losing fight against this poke comp.
Yeah, I mean, Leoric has separated from the rest of the team. The Gus has to be cast here. The Curse has been picked up for Astral Authority, and that's going to be one dead Falstad, but they did spend the Polybomb. 40-second cooldown, not the end of the world.
Yeah, I mean, that was a good play there as we saw Muradin. The minute he got Mighty Gusted away, he Dwarf Tossed back in, and then was able to land that the stun, and then the team followed up. So nicely done there. You find yourself a little bit trapped under this fort, but with that curse going, it works out well for you. The Siege Giants continuing to put pressure down on the bottom. That could potentially go down. Lunara trying to deal with that, but this middle fort should be going down.
Yeah, very unlikely they can defend this. Like we said, that bottom lane, that's a good situation here for Denial. At least they don't have to worry about the push immediately, but Lunara is on the case, wailing away at that bottom fort, and of course, their poison damage is substantial.
Yeah, no nature's toxin, but the poison damage is pretty real. You can see the poke there. iDream forced to come down, rotate. That flight was used a minute ago, so if something happens up top, they know that Falstad's not going to be involved in that, so we'll see how long this draws out. Astral Authority rotating up to the top. They've got Caffeine isolated just a little bit. The damage starting to come in, and that is going to be a dead Leoric. There we go.
Yeah, Cath just can't catch a break right now. They're putting the pressure on. The curse has expired. One fort, very low in mid, but none have fallen here on the side of Denial. But actually, they're all just about ready to fall, it seems.
Yeah, Glauron going in hard. The Aegis is coming out already to try and do some damage. As you talked about, the Emerald Wind with the displacement trees going down. Battery in a bad position right now.
Yeah, they should be able to get the double here, especially with Dream rolling on up here on the fall side. Ariel in the retreat. Tassadar on the case, chasing Chimera. He's looking for that spot to try to hark away. The portal actually sent down through, and the Gust will whiff because the nice portal of Equinox, who then just throws out his nice little Q to eliminate the mid fort.
Just so casually, here's a portal. Let me go ahead and take this fort with me. We're going to go ahead and back out. That's kind of something different that Medivh brings to the table that no other hero in the game can do.
Yeah, I mean, just the options that are provided. We saw a lot of cool plays with Medivh throughout the weekend, but Denial, they're now looking at the boss, trying to get themselves some more pressure. Now, the top fort is down, so that boss will walk all the way down to the keeps, probably just do some light damage, whereas Astral's in the same situation. The thing on the side of Astral is they've already eliminated all 3 forts rather than just 1.
I mean, this is an interesting spot for Astral to be in. Obviously, we had Falstad and Tassadar get a little bit of poke in. It kind of gives the idea of the threat potentially coming in from Denial. You could see them back off the boss. It ended up being leashed, and now Brightwing coming down to join the fight. That's the power of the Globals. Top boss has been picked up. A nice play here by Denial to be able to, quote-unquote, deny this boss, but it is staying active here, Jake.
They still have Gust, and they still have Entomb. The Entomb buying some time. They got to focus the boss quickly. A beautiful steal there from Denial Esports.
Who needs a mighty Gust when you just have a huge blocker called the Entomb? They just completely zoned him out. That's 2 bosses picked up. Denial starting to turn this around. While they have lost all of their forts, all of a sudden you're looking at 2 bosses pushing down on you.
I mean, that's like the worst case scenario right now. They were sitting in the advantageous position. Now suddenly they've lost all forts. Boss being escorted in the bottom lane. Top boss just made it through the wall. Not a big deal, but they can continue pressuring the mid lane because of that boss at bottom. Falstad is perfectly safe to hang out down there. Sure, he's retreating a bit before they get eyes on, but he can rotate back on down. He has the Gust, he has the barrel roll, he has the flight. So much mobility on that hero, and they're looking to even steal the giant camp up here on top.
Yeah, they're going to steal that giant camp, and they're going to push in just a little bit at that top lane, and that's going to allow them to get more structure value. It's also going to get them closer to the 16. They've built that up. As we take a look at Master's Touch as well, it's about 80% of the way there. You know, that's a big spike, as you talked about when that was first picked up. He still needs to be able to secure that.
I love what Equinox was doing, though. He was sitting in the bird form, realized they were trying to capture the Giants, and he actually farmed up the Master's Touch. I think he got 2 or 3 connections there just over the wall. So really nicely done. Forced to use his portal as the force wall does come down. And finally, Denial will get a tribute in this game.
Yeah, they got the tribute that they wanted, and they've done it just by executing the rotations on that boss. They've secured themselves a level and a half lead. They've made up the structure disadvantage that they had, and it now looks like Denial is in control of this game.
It's just crazy the way things can swing with a throw pit, right? The boss just netted Denial so many options in this game, and that experience speaks for itself. Right now, utilizing that global soak, getting Glaurung back on the Merc camps, as well to keep that stranglehold onto Astral Authority. Every single member postured safely on their side of the map.
Well, the global soak, I think, for Brightwing and Falstad is paying off quite a bit. They've managed to make the rotations that they need to make. They're not late to the fights. They've been able to stay in the lanes, and they have been able to trust their team making those decisions. And, I mean, this is just right now, Denial is in control, as I said a minute ago, and I think that they're doing this by controlling the map, controlling the camps. Every single camp on the map right now is red. I mean, it's almost crazy to think that you have that much control over a map this big, but they do, as we see a little bit of damage coming out here in the middle, while the camp's being picked up and a tribute spawn as well. No 16 for Astral.
Yeah, I'm just going to have to give this up, concede this tribute, soak as much as they can, deal with the mercenary camps around the map, and then look to deny the curse at the next tribute spawn. But level 16 will net them a good amount of damage, a good big power spike for the team. And already just having, you know, the portal range is going to give them so many more options for hard engages. The thing is, though, I don't know like what their hard engage is. Look at the options that Denial has. Constantly we're seeing these portals used in fear, just to retreat, time and time again.
Yeah, that rotation over there was really well done by Denial. If that was any other hero other than Medivh, that would have been trees going down on Li Ming, but nicely done there as Equinox and team recognized that. They were able to rotate over. And level 16 picked up here. We see Mirror Ball being picked up by Li Ming. That's a huge power spike for Li Ming as well. So I'm curious because, as you said, the next one's going to be a curse, and that tribute is spawning here in about 10 seconds.
Yeah, so they don't really have a choice. They have to fight for this. They don't want a curse going against them with all of their keeps vulnerable and those lanes pushed in for the most part. So we'll see what they can do. They don't necessarily have the most options when it comes to like hard engage, and again, they're just using that portal for positioning to retreat their assassins, it seems. But they do have a lot of burst, especially with that Mirror Ball. Yeah,
and there it comes in as Tree's just trying to launch. He hasn't landed anything yet, but the minute it lands, you're going to know it. But we do have the Tassadar shields that are there, keeping the team healthy on the backside. APM, it looks like he's going to be able to pick it up. The channel of the Disintegrate cancels it at just the last moments. This fight's going to continue.
Yeah, it will continue on. Cap's getting lots of healing. APM phase shifting in for the shield onto Glaurung. Battery gets the shield at the last moment, and King Caffeine dies on Leoric. One down, but Frozen is low in the back. But the heals from Ariel more than enough to top him off, and Denial is in full-on retreat. The portal has been cast, but they're not committing to it. They're just settling for the tribute.
They take the kill, and the Mighty Gust was used very early. They weren't able to get on top of it because Leoric went down at the exact same time, so no real follow-up. And then, of course, the threat of the Li Ming resets was there. That was a big victory for Astral. Not only did they get the tribute, but they were able to catch up a little bit in experience. They got the kill, and I think that gives them a little bit more map control. I mean, this is... something's going to give eventually, Jake. I mean, it's only 4 kills to 2. We're 15 minutes in. It seems like there hasn't been that big team fight, and it's eventually going to happen because that's how important the curses are in this map.
Yeah, the other thing we didn't see in that fight was like Glaurung really going deep with the Brightwing Bomb with him, right? When Brightwing phase shifts in, gives him that big shield and casts Emerald Wind to really just kind of disperse that fight and allow Greymane to go to town. It's hard to deal with, but we haven't really seen that come out yet. I mean, actually, has Emerald Wind even been cast yet?
It was one time, and I don't even think it was completely necessary. But as you said, the threat is there on those portals, so I'm really curious to see if they're actually going to be able to take advantage of that. It's not necessarily that there's a dive comp on Astral, it's just possibly that displacement, as that hammering does a lot of damage to Frozen X on the backside.
Okay, they're getting that channel. Stall is here. Dream can hunt for the Gust. They can try to find the Entombed Gust Dream, but it's very difficult, especially with that bird continuously keeping eyes on. A lot of focus, a lot of damage on Equinox, who does use that portal in defense to get back to his bird form. But Dream is flying up, looking for the Gust. In they go. Battery is low. The Poly is in, and the go for the throat picks up the kill. The cleave going on in. The Aegis has been cast, but the Emerald Wind forcing Chimera into that pit. Double kill here for Denial.
That Entomb was perfect. They were able to lock in Chimera, and then they're going to capitalize on that. This is going to be a curse. They have 40 seconds. I mean, we might be looking at it just going straight for the game. I mean, this is 30 seconds on these cooldowns, and the curse, there's no threat of damage from that keep. The only damage going to be coming in is from the core. They're posturing up, but the damage coming out from Frozen X and Trees is real. You have to be very careful with positioning. K1 Pro taking a lot of damage on Tassadar, but they are posturing for the core, Jake.
Yeah, all K1 Pro wanted to do was force them back. The shields will fall very quickly, especially because of the curse. As you mentioned, the minions making their way in, just now joining them, down to just 70%. I think they have done it, Jay Howe.
Yeah, Storm Shield is out. That's keeping everybody very healthy. 30%, it's going down. The Trees is not going to be able to get the resets. This is game number 1. Again, it took one team fight to make this break. They got the curse, walked right in, took game number 1 here against Astral Authority.
Really cool play, abusing their global presence, constantly finding the edge in experience, but just that boss steal and riding that momentum through the mid game into the late game. Insanely well done from Denial.
You couldn't have highlighted it anymore. It was that one play, and they literally took that advantage and never let go. They only gave up one tribute, and it was only because they had to do what they had to do. But we're going to hear more from our panel as we toss it over there.
All right, thank you very much, guys. Of course, 1-0 now to Denial Esports after what looked like a very strong draft from Astral Authority, and even not a bad start to the game, but things slightly went awry there.
It looked kind of like their Naventic games, where they started out strong. They were actually playing, relatively well, and then it kind of gets to the mid-game, things get shaky. And, the big turning point for me was after the curse, when Denial picked up a couple kills, and then I looked at the experience bar. I was like, okay, Denial has all 3 forts down. Surely Astral Authority is ahead in experience, and I look up and it's like Denial's half a level ahead. What?
Yeah, their decision making when it came to the curse, I think, was part of the reason it ended up that way. And I mean, I agree. It did feel a bit like when they were against Naventic, having a pretty solid lead. I felt like Naventic pulled the trigger a bit harder than Denial did, but I mean, when they had that kind of composition and already looking kind of that wishy-washy really when it comes to their play, I don't have too much faith in them anymore going in the rest of the series.
I mean, is this a really good omen then for Denial Esports? Showing that, of course, we believe, and many other people would believe there, that Astral Authority clearly won the draft in that sense, but then Denial Esports just showed fantastic mastery over the later stages of the game.
Yeah, they did, and actually this was the biggest misplay of them all. This was the situation where they weren't able to get the boss. They started it at a reasonable time. It wasn't ideal. Only one person was scouting on the side of Denial Esports, which was going to be the Tassadar. And because nobody was willing to tank the boss, first Li Ming took a bit of damage, then Lunara, Medivh mounted up, and then after the 3 resets, the boss completely reset on them, which then meant Denial got a free boss, free rotation to contest them over the next boss, and it just was all downhill from there for Astral Authority.
Good reposition there by iDream as well to secure themselves good kills after the gust up towards a tribute point, and from that point on, I mean, that was the clean cut of the game right there.
We were discussing, this looks like an odd place to take Emerald Wind on Brightwing at the beginning of that match, but he actually used it to kind of counter the Ariel Crystal Aegis a little bit. The Aegis locks you in place, and he would wind up the Brightwing Emerald Wind, and then it would hit around when the Crystal Aegis ended, and it actually served as a pretty good follow-up CC to prevent them from reinitiating off of their own Crystal Aegis.
All right, well, our next map will be Tomb of the Spider Queen here, and it has been picked by Astral Authority. So maybe going to a little bit more of their comfort zone, but as much as I said it was a good omen there for Denial Esports with their performance in that game, now, after seeing Astral Authority lose out with what we consider to be a very strong composition, is there still hope for them here? Because unless they get perfect drafts and then perfect execution, Denial Esports seems to have had their number very heavily in that game towards the end.
I personally think with how Denial's been drafting, I think there's a way around it. Like a way to be able to deal with them. Because going into this next match, Denial's been very double support-ish, if not a pseudo-support style, with melee-centric focus. And you know that last time we saw that Astral Authority wanted to play this map, Kerrigan's a very heavy focus hero. And as I say that, we got a majority of the draft already done. We have Ariel Kerrigan.
All right, we are very deep into this draft powered by Oros once again, as they've been picking extremely fast. So what we can say from this draft, because they have been picking so fast, is that both teams have been very decisive about their choices up until this point. So both teams really know what they want here on Tomb of the Spider Queen.
Sylvanas, man, if you guys could have waited 5 seconds to lock in so I could have looked cool when I said Sylvanas is what Denial should have picked, I would have really appreciated that, bros.
All right, Dread, I see you thinking and contemplating over there. What do you think of these compositions so far? It's a little bit hard to think about all the pick order in that short space of time.
I mean, Denial is going to have Kerrigan, Glarong on the Kerrigan. They only have one support, but Kerrigan Ariel is a very, very strong pairing. ETZ is going to be a perfect setup. Gus, whenever your team fights look rough, along with, again, Aegis is going to be a really solid backup, and Sylv whenever you get the skirmishes. So right now, I feel like Denial has a well-rounded comp.
Denial's composition is well-rounded, no doubt. I'm just a little concerned about that ETC pickup. It's good in the early game, but their early game wave clear is not so great. Astral Authority doesn't have that much either, so they probably won't get crushed in it, and the Kerrigan threat should be enough, but I feel like that's always a concern on Tomb of the Spider Queen.
Yeah, I really think that there was not near enough focus on wave clear for Astral Authority for that to be a problem, and Denial does have the kill composition that they're looking for, and a lot to just complement the map overall. I think the only thing for the ETC I agree with, but I also am fearful of, is just that Calf, by far his weakest support or tank is the ETC.
Well, back on the Panda, they seem to have liked it a lot yesterday, and now they're going to be pulling it out once again. They even forced out basically a respect ban from the teams yesterday, to which they then started high-fiving each other and then hugging each other. It's as if they won the tournament in that moment, but not to be the case. So they're back with the Panda here on Tomb of the Spider Queen, and a lot of the Wandering Kegs that they used yesterday were more for retreat than anything else. Will they have more success with it here against the comp? What do you think, Dunk?
Well, in yesterday's games, they picked Chen into that Kerrigan matchup as well.
Yeah.
And in theory, it's something that should be really good to counter-initiate on the Kerrigan or the ETC because of the unstoppable provided by the Wandering Keg. I'm just concerned that yesterday it seemed like Battery was getting isolated more on that Chen and then had to use it to save himself, like you said. So hopefully they don't end up giving away picks, especially because Denial's composition is so scary.
I think it's got a spot, and I agree with the counter initiation potential into the composition of Denial. The only thing for me that I am a little less favorable of the Chen as well is because on Tomb, the win condition almost always is going to be the boss opportunity or it's going to be their turn-ins. And with Sylvanas complementing the turn-ins so heavily, typically, you're not going to look to the boss control, which Chen can provide, to really be able to lock down and win the game. So I just wonder if they gave too much siege and just wave clear on the side of Denial for that to truly gain value in the back half of the draft.
That double tank also tends to struggle with wave clear. That's one of the weaknesses of that style composition. Murden and Chen, neither one is bringing enough wave clear to sort of hold their own in that regard. So Lunara is going to need to take Nature's Culling in order to be able to deal with those waves.
The coolest positive side to that composition, though, is if Denial looks to get an engagement with Kerrigan, move in, try to get the displacement with the stun that she's going to have afterwards, you can open like the root follow and chase potential of Chen. You initiate with or counter engage with the barrel, and then you're going to just look for that root. The chase potential is always insane, and this map kind of helps that later in the game.
All right, well, we're getting into game number 2. It's a rare chance we get to see Aureal with Kerrigan. How do they couple up with each other? Just kind of quick thoughts.
My impression is they'll be very good together.
Yeah.
When Kerrigan dives in, a lot of times she turns and gets focus fired. If a well-timed Crystal Aegis comes in, ruins that focus fire, and buys time for Kerrigan's cooldown, that will be absolutely game-changing.
Dread, any thoughts going in?
Battery's got to show that the Panda's worth it.
Go for the Panda. Go for the Panda. All right, thank you very much, boys. We are going to head over to the Xfinity casting desk once again for Game 2 here in our semi-final.
Thanks so much, guys. J-How. We're getting the Panda once more. We've seen mixed success. We've seen the respect ban earlier in this tournament. Do you think it will work here?
I feel that if Astral thinks it's going to work, then there's always a possibility. I don't think they'd bust it out this much if they didn't have an idea on how it works. But as what the guys talked about, what does it really bring to this map in particular, especially their lack of wave clear? So it'll be really interesting. Obviously, we saw Splintered Spear last game. Something tells me we'll be seeing a Nature's Culling this time around.
Yeah, definitely on this map. I mean, having that, it was paired with Thornwood Vines, amazing utility for cleaning up the wave. But on the other side, there is that Sylvanas, who was last picked, which is super weird for this map in general. But that's just kind of the state of the NA meta right now, as we are walking in the mid lane.
Why not, right? You know, one of the small things that I love about what people do is you saw the false dead fly in at the very beginning and throw that Q out the minute they came through the gates. When you have that stacking talent at level 1, it's such a little sneaky thing you can do on a small map like this to get that early stun. But Equinox being punished as he's in very deep, but they're trying to return some of that pressure on Caffeine. But Muradin, the first to fall, now Frozen X in a lot of trouble, gets caught at the end of that grasp. That is 2 kills in less than a minute.
2 kills and 2 wells tapped, whereas I don't think there was a single well tapped on the side of Denial, and K1 Pro already laying in the damage. Battery's at half health. When you consider that he can drink his brew and build up some of those shields, like, look how aggressive K1 is. He taps so well, he flies forward to try to punish Battery. The rotation coming in from Glaurung, that is going to be another kill.
You know, the guy said Battery getting isolated was a problem. That's an isolation of Battery on Chen. And that's something that you have to prevent happening. He had already used his kick. He had tried to use it a little bit too late, but rotations alone, if you don't recognize those, you're going to get punished, and that's exactly what just happened.
Well, Denial off to a spicy start here in game number 2. And, you know, just looking at the draft once more, they're so targeting a few members. Equinox in particular in this tournament. I mean, in the past, he's known for Kerrigan. Guess what? Glaurung took Kerrigan. Oh, he's been playing a bit of Johanna. Guess what? They banned Johanna with their second ban. And they're putting him on this gray main, and it's not like he's known for that hero. I'm so interested to see how he will do in this match.
It's always going to be a big question mark when you have people playing heroes that you don't always see them play. You know that they can, but there's a big difference between having a lot of experience on a hero and having a little bit of experience. And I know scrim results and all that stuff, but this is the big stage where you have to play your absolute best. And right now we see a 4-person rotation as the slide in by Caffeine.
Okay, already so much damage being thrown out onto just about everyone. Haunting Wave used to apply damage, leaving Dream a bit vulnerable to Equinox, but was it a successful bait? Yes, it was. He goes down. The focus now on Glau, but the peel of Caffeine and the heals of APM are plentiful.
They are, and there's another grasp onto Frozen. It's almost like they forget that Kerrigan can dive. That's only going to get scarier, especially if he opts to go with the range later on with his talent choices. But Equinox going in hard, and then Kerrigan diving over. It's almost like that dive potential is lost right now. They have to keep in mind that you can't just go in with low health. That's easy kills for Kerrigan.
And it's so scary because their composition is so melee. I mean, Uther is a melee support, Greyman is a half melee, Chen is melee, Murden's melee, and if they're all clumped up and Kerrigan can land a big combo, well, we've already seen it happen a few times.
Look at what that's done to the gem count. 37 only obtained, none turned in for Astral Authority. 37 turned in, 42 now for Denial. They already have enough for a turn, and they're looking to try and take advantage of that.
More than enough, and they're making the rotation down here onto bottom battery. Once again, their target will be unsuccessful in getting it, but they will have control of this bottom coffer, and it's going to be Falstad looking for that first turn-in. Yeah,
and you see K1 Pro sitting there. Now he's on Falstad, as we suspected last game. Chimera got to be very careful of this positioning. Battery going in, the flying kick in, but he was so low to begin with. Now Chimera, and it's just, they are getting bodied right now. 5 kills to 0. It's like they're being aggressive against a comp that's very hard to be aggressive against.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Denial, they're in high spirits right now. After game number 1, they're feeling it. They had a kind of a stomp of a game over Astral, and their confidence is overflowing in a good way. It really, like, having this early web weaver, but they need to be careful. Cloud taking a lot of damage, but the peel is there from Cap. Ariel with the big heals looking to engage here in this bottom mid lane.
Yeah, and they're going to push in, and of course, as we talked about before,
oh my goodness,
the detainment strike into the stun. Trees is somehow still alive, but not for long. They're going to need a cleanse. That's going to come in at level 7, but a full level lead for Denial. You know, Jake, when we first loaded up, you said it's surprising that Sylvanas got towards the end of the draft. Now you have Web Weavers pushing, and that it's just doing so much work between all the lanes. It's putting so much pressure on them right now.
That's what everyone says about Sylvanas. It's like, oh, well, if you don't actually manage to get the turn-ins early, you don't earn that big advantage quick. But guess what? They're going to be able to get 2/4 very low, sub 5 minutes in this game on Tomb. That is like about as good as you can ask for. Greymane goes down. I mean, this is just non-stop bloodlust out of the side of Denial.
Denial just seems like they have everything in order. Their rotations have been on point for 2 games straight. You know, they started a little bit slow in game number 1, but I think it was by design. And the minute everything comes in, Chimera in a very dangerous position, forced to go out. There's the detainment strike. The follow-up tree is used to Dwarf Toss to get out of there, and just barely misses that Kerrigan combo.
And look at like just how scary they're playing. Glau sat there and ravaged the whole lane when he was constantly posing the threat of throwing a combo out. You saw them posturing, they saw them being afraid. Detainment straight is how they open, as you mentioned, to get that stun on Murden. Sure, they don't find the kill, but it's just everywhere you look, there is a threat constantly. And even with battery flying kick in, he's actually overextended now. He's taking huge damage. He dodges the combo. It doesn't even matter. He's gonna die.
And there he goes down. You had to question it there for a second. Glaurung in the back. He's trying to reset. He's getting heals up.
My
That's
goodness.
2 kills, but Falstad goes down. In the meantime, Trees has to be very careful. You know, I mean, this is just an interesting approach. It seemed like they were ready to go in. Now, keep in mind that there is no cleanse on the side of Denial. So they went in. They had the huge stun lock. The problem is the rest of the team wasn't there in time. They went in hard and, again, are getting punished for not being on the same page, or at least being as tightly knit as what we see from Denial Esports. Level 10, Jake. Already.
Yeah, this is really tough because gem count is low for Astral considering they've died so much. Already 9 deaths on their side. Level 10, a back-to-back turn-in with the Web Weavers. Falstad flying in looking for trees. Gonna be able to get the gust in. The combo's gonna land. Will they get the kill? Yes, sir. Murden's down once more.
It's just, I don't know what to say. I mean, they're so far up in lanes. All the forts are down. You know it's hard to be in that position. But most of the time, you see somebody like Murden get out alive. But then you have somebody like K1 Pro who recognizes this. The team is on the same page. The rotations are on point. They are literally executing flawlessly with their comp. It's so much synergy.
It's beautiful.
With what they've got going on,
man. Like, they are already pressuring the keep. Towers will be able to get this wall down, escorting this Web Weaver with the power of Sylvanas in that black arrow. And what can Astral even do? They don't have heroics. To fight this is suicidal. So they just have to wait patiently.
This is where things get really scary. It's already gotten a little bit out of control as Battery being picked on again. You're not going to be able to take him down now. And you see Frozen X on Lunara trying to put some damage in as Glaurung going in. He is scary to deal with. He is in deep. He's already popped that Maelstrom to get that damage. They got to keep 7.5 minutes in. Tomb of the Spider Queen. Things are getting out of control as a 3-level lead for Denial Esports.
You know, this kind of reminds me of the old school Cloud9, where they would just style on some maps like this, where they just go mega ham. But it only happens when they're feeling uber confident, right? And this is also another uber confident play where they're just going for the boss, acknowledging that Astral literally can't afford to do this. They don't have barrel yet. Nearly, but not quite.
Okay, level 10 will be picked up by Astral. But Denial just cleared out a keep in the top lane, and this boss is going to be pushing top lane. So much pressure is being put on Astral Authority right now that it's almost unreal, and we see Denial just rotating down, playing this map. Astral Authority is going to be forced to respond, and then we're going to have to see whatever Denial wants to do next, they're going to be able to do it.
Pretty much, yeah. They have every option in their basket right now. Astral has to defend the boss. Denial can now clean up that bottom fort, remove any kind of safety or presence whatsoever, opening up 1,000,000 points of entry on the side of Denial for their flanks and everything. And Astral they almost need to get lucky at this point.
They need to get lucky, but at the same time, level 13 picked up by Denial Esports, and there's some big talents here on the side of Denial. You look at the extra range for Kerrigan, you talk about the cooldown, the extra abilities that are going to be coming out from Falstad, and then Windrunner, which you get the resets on your Q to be able to put that Withering Fire out multiple times. There's a lot of threat out of a level 13 talent for Denial Esports, but the Wandering Keg is out, Jake.
Yeah, but it's not getting the impact that they need. They go in, Kerrigan diving into the backline, D-Shield forced out before the Greymane could really have the impact, but Glau is low. Crystal Aegis being cast, gonna explode. The Gust going forward. Glau looking for Frozen next, but not able to find the kill, and hit by the Hammer of Justice. Does end up going down first, but Dream is on the case, flying into the backside with that Haunting Wave, finding a double kill and turning it in their favor.
A lot of gems have been lost on the side of Astral Authority, and that's what I was talking about. You saw the Haunting Wave in, it got the resets on that battery, taking a lot of damage. The heals from Ghost Uther not enough to keep him alive. That's a 3-for-1 trade, very much in favor. 59 gems for Denial. All they got to do is get another gem, and they have another turn-in of Web Weavers going to be pushed in here in just a minute.
I mean, they've turned in twice. Here comes their third turn-in. We barely have enough on the side of Astral for that first turn-in in general. I mean, it's so polarized in terms of the objective.
They're going to need a miracle. I mean, the thing about it is that you have Lunara. When it comes to defending on your back foot, Lunara, Nature's Calling at level 7 allows you to take down those Web Weavers and the waves that are going to be pushing in. But there's a limit to how much you can get out of that. Yes, you can defend well, but at the same time, when you're down 3 levels, you're down a talent tier, and you have a team executing as well as they are right now, I mean, they recognize this. They've got to force a fight. They've got to try and do something, and iDream just hops right over with that Haunting Wave.
Yeah, I mean, the barrel is a critical element for them to engage and find someone like Ariel out of position. And now Battery, he's lost his trump card. The Kerrigan going with the extended range of the Ravage. D-Shield on the wrong target. He was looking to land that on Greymane, but a Chimera gets himself, and now that's a Gust. Throwing Lunara back, trees will fall, and this could actually be game.
Yeah, I don't think it's out of the question that they're about to end here. Siege Camp and Web Weavers pushing in. iDream trying to make the plays with that Haunting Wave. The return stunned, but this is going to be another keep and potentially game. Greymane will be back up. Lunara should be back up here soon as well, but the combo lands onto 2 people, and they get the takedown. Trees doing anything again. He's actually getting sandwiched by the waves coming in from the Web Weavers.
Insult to injury. Equinox is back up. They're trying to take down the top Web Weaver, which is nice. Blau did dive pretty far forward and took heavy damage from the core, excuse me, but man, this keep in mid lane will go down for sure. I don't think they can end though, even with Equinox falling. Okay, if they get trees as well.
That
and
extra
Frozen.
range, look at that. Glaurung is being an absolute terror. And Astral Authority seems to be just giving it away. It just seems like
they're silent. They're just silent in Astral right now. He's a playground. Each and every member is like another bouncing board for them. GG's Astral just rolls, gets rolled by Denial with a 5-level lead, J-How. 5 levels.
Unheard of. We saw 4. They were like, let's one up it. We're going 5-level lead here. I mean, that was unbelievable. The plays that Glaurung was able to make the minute he had that extra. He made them early, and then he had that level 13. Did you see the dives that he was making to secure those kills? You want to talk about somebody who you can lean on? That's amazing.
Clown Fiesta, man. I mean, Denial just showing that they are here to win. And guys, you know what? We're going to throw to a quick commercial break to get ready for game number 3 in this Best of 5 series. Stay tuned.
All agents of Overwatch, look around. War. Criminals. Someone has to do something. We can make a difference again. The world needs us more than ever. We are justice.
We are courage. We are hope.
We are Overwatch. Are you with me?
Overwatch. Play it now on PC and console. Rated T for teen.
This is a place of funky magical phenomena. Anything goes for one night in Kansas.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to PAX West here for the North America Fall Regional Heroes of the Storm. And to quote my very good friend Red Eye, brutal, savage, and Rex. That was actually domination there coming out from Denial Esports. And Astral Authority had no answer whatsoever.
Answers? They didn't even look like they were playing the same game. I mean, Denial was literally going everywhere on the map, destroying them. Glaurung was going off with Kerrigan combos.
I mean, he was. He hit a lot of big combos, but Astral just panicked. They hit a moment where the level 1 didn't go good, the level 4 skirmish didn't look too hot either, and then it got to the point where it was just like, we're just gonna barrel and hope that it works out.
Yeah. It had no response. Every single fight, I mean, I think they got 1 kill early, but beyond that, very little happened here for Astral Authority. And with them now going down in this series, 2 games like that, with a 5-level lead in the very end. Of course, by the time the game is already finished anyway, and they're just kind of actually in dominant mode. What is Astral Authority supposed to do here, Dunk? Is it all but lost? You can be honest here.
Honestly, I just don't think it's mentally possible to come back from a situation like that. For this team especially. I mean, historically, we had some sets like that in the old days between Cloud9 and Tempo Storm. Someone would get to a 2-0 lead, and then someone could bring it back. But I have not seen that kind of mental fortitude from Astral Authority, and I don't think they're going to be able to recover from that stomping.
Yeah, and I think that game already showed kind of like a smaller scale of exactly that mental fortitude you brought up. For instance, okay, they lost a lot of the early skirmishes. They were far behind. Their opponents got a top keep. You couldn't stop any of that. Once you got the scaling, it was just unstoppable. But your opponent is likely going to go to boss. They disappear for a long period of time. They take knights instead of trying to get a counter turn in. Anything. There was like 3 different moments where they had a solid opportunity to possibly get a response to maybe even up the score. And it just didn't get close to happening, allowed Denial to stop it later on, and I mean, it was their game at that point. It's just unstoppable, and I expect that to carry to game number 3 as well.
As much as they were relying a little bit in the previous day on Chen and to try and help them out in that double warrior kind of setup, was it really the right pick there towards the end? Or even in the draft phase, had it gone way too far for them to find anything in that last pick spot? Do you think something could have helped out different there?
I'm not going to say I hated the Chen.
Okay.
I can say I hated how the Chen was played. When you're against a Kerrigan-style composition, I think it's far better. It's in your best interest to be counter-engaging rather than engaging. Because the minute that you don't have success with that pickoff, you're going to almost never win the fight after that point. You've already used one of your great defensive tools to try to be offensive, and it wasn't ever successful.
I think one of the other difficulties with their composition was they let the enemy get Sylvanas on that map and didn't have the tools to deal with it.
All right, let's get into the draft powered by Autos once again here. Astral Authority currently on the ropes. They are backed into a corner. What are they going to do?
Denial's already going with a more standard playstyle in their draft than we've seen kind of in their first day. It shows their confidence, I think, that they're willing to just open up with we're just going to go Ling Ming Murd and very solid all around here in this draft. So we'll see if Astral Authority, if they decide to go with a more panic, maybe Medivh, like unique style playstyle, or just go back to what they know.
Initially coming into this, we were kind of expecting Denial to do the weird stuff, and they did have a unique strategy, or at least a variant of, in that first game, but honestly, this Ling Ming Muradin is just devastating, and I feel like this is probably the best map for that combo, just because wave clear is so much less relevant. The enemy team sort of has to fight you if at any point you get ahead, and you can just stand on those temples.
Yeah, and I feel like that adjustment, we saw them do it in the first game, is showing that they're not doing it anymore, just shows the confidence. Again, like they are like, we have this in the bag. Do not worry about it. Play objectively strong heroes, and we'll figure everything else later. And I think that's going to help them moving on if they make it to the grand finals, which is projected to be so after these first two games.
Are you surprised that Johanna came in so early here for Astral Authority?
I am. I feel like there has to be a reasoning, hopefully, somewhere in there.
It seems like we've seen quite a few, I don't want to say random, but just early Johannas, where, especially when teams feel pressured, they just want the safest possible hero.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's how teams are picking Johanna right now, is just, okay, we just need a tank who's not going to die, and that is a bad mentality to play from, honestly.
Is something like for Astral Authority in the last two picks, like a support and a Sonya, something that's a potential here for them? I mean, Sonya has fallen off a little bit, but could that be a composition they would think about here? Or,
I mean, it's definitely one that they can go with. I mean, right now they have any route to really run down. I think it's in their best interest to keep playing that very standard. If it's going to be a Sonya, it could be a Thrall as well, but I expect them to put, all right, they go with the double support again. Which means that we're going to move, Glarong is the only person without a hero picked up yet. Kerrigan and Zeratul off the table. Greymane is still up, which I mean, they love right now, so I would expect to see him playing on that. If it's not a Greymane, it's going to be... I'm missing a fourth hero that he's known for. Illidan?
It could be an Illidan. I think Illidan would actually be excellent here.
I agree.
He's really good against Johanna, solid against Falstad. Even Medivh, you know, the Force of Will, blocking 1.5 seconds of Illidan's damage doesn't do that much.
But he does have Polybomb and Leyline, and technically, I prefer Leyline in that situation, but it can be a decent response to it.
I suppose if they were fearful of that, even having a Sonya won't be too bad. They only have blinds right now in Johanna to help on out. It's going to be the Rhaegar as the pickup for the first. And what will be coming along now? The more I say Sonya, though, the more I think that Equinox is going to end up being on the Medivh anyway. So I'm not 100% sold on it, my own idea.
The Rhaegar, I think, actually lends some credence to the possibility of that bruisery second front line. They definitely need something to hold control of these fights. Thrall or Sonya, though, either way.
I actually, okay, there you go with the Tracer instead. I was going to say, that's another hero we've seen Glarong on recently as well. That is a good point. So I think I almost would rather have them gone Illidan than ourselves. They don't have a bad Illidan composition with the Rhaegar, with the Medivh, and a lot of the tools on the side of Denial Esports, Li Ming usually kind of struggles because she has to run away, kind of worried about panicking. Only Calamity is the most reliable DPS to come out. Brightwing is solid, and so is Muradin, but Tassadar isn't too great on his own, and it's typically a character that if you have good support, which they have, you usually can do pretty well, and it's a good map for him.
All right, well, those are the drafts coming out. Greymane rounds things out for Denial Esports as to kind of what we expected to come out here for Glaurung. And I must admit, you know, we were saying it during the games as well. It really feels like sometimes when Glaurung's on his melee assassins, he's kind of hit and miss. He'll either make the plays or he will actually be a disaster for the team. But on Greymane, it seems kind of like that middle ground that actually fits his playstyle with the rest of the team very well, right?
It has, especially coupled with his double support composition that we've seen over and over from Denial. And I can't help but think the Tracer pick as a response to the enemy having Brightwing Tassadar, it actually hurts Astral's composition a lot. They don't have the setup to keep that Tracer alive and make plays with her. And I think it was really just a deny that's going to end up hurting them.
I mean, I agree. I think it is going to be a tool. It's the Tracer show, this game. If she plays out of her mind, they have an opportunity to be able to pull away a win here.
Yeah.
But again, with the mental problems that we kind of saw out of the first and second game, I think it's going to carry over to this one as well. And I feel like even worse, on top of the fact that the Tracer has to play out of her mind, the Johanna pick makes it to where she legitimately has to be the only reason that they have a chance of winning this game because they don't have enough engage.
All right, well, let's take a peek at who is going to be playing what here. Denial Esports versus Astral Authority. Game number 3 about to ensue here on Sky Temple. Boys, who are you looking out for to make the plays?
Dread's right. For Astral Authority to have even the tiniest glimmer of hope in this game, Equinox has to put on the amazing Tracer show.
Dread?
He's got to put on a clinic, and then other than that, I think my eyes are just on Glaurung. He's done very well on the Greymane, and I think that's going to carry over in this game as well. I expect to put a lot of pressure on the Tracer.
All right, thank you very much. We're heading over to the Xfinity Casters desk here at the ESL Arena in Seattle for game number 3 between Denial Esports and Astral Authority.
Thanks so much, guys. Yeah, we are here at Tournament Point for Denial Esports, and they're mixing things up on the side of Astral. I mean, they've moved with the Medivh over to a different player. It's not going to be Equinox this game. Equinox is going to be on that Tracer, which is a little bit more well-known for. Do you think it's enough to make of an adjustment?
It's always interesting when you pick a Tracer into somebody like Brightwing. That polymorph is there and the blow-up potential from Greymane. I mean, Greymane's range has been limited a little bit for some recent patches, but when you run into him, that makes up for the range. So it's going to be really interesting to see Equinox's approach. He's going to really, as they said, put on a show.
Okay, well, the Watchtower, a very powerful resource here, will be controlled from Astral first. But of course, Tassadar does have that vision to try to, deal with that threat that exists. And then Frozen X on the Medivh this time around will be scouting around. Looking at those level 1 talents, looks like it will very much be that phase shift style for the Greymane to engage once more. Very powerful and very common.
It looked like Astral Authority just took unnecessary damage from Li Ming there, talking trees down the bottom under assault. It's like right now Denial already seems to be winning lanes, and we're less than a minute in, and I'm not real sure why they're just letting Denial take the fight to them when it seems like they have the advantage. The portal's there, Caffeine forced to Dwarf Toss out. I Dream under a little bit of pressure from Equinox, but it seemed like Denial Esports already has control in the early game.
Yeah, like the fact that they're just bullying Fallstand back right now. They've already gotten a tower. They're looking at the second one here. The Lave is pushed in, and the first temples are now spawning in the mid and top. Global presence for that Fallstand and Brightwing. We'll see how long they soak, but there is a gank attempt with Tracer in the bottom.
Yeah, and now that we see Johanna trying to get out of the Iron Skin, not enough damage between Tracer and Mert, and a little bit late rotation there by Li Ming. But as you said, the 2 temples are now spawning. This is kind of an interesting thing. When you can get control early, you can get some of this damage. As you see, the whole bottom lane seems to be under pressure. Jake, I always like to highlight this one because if you can take that well in an early game, as Equinox coming in, rotating around, Glaurung diving back in as we see the Pulse Bomb get put onto APM. That is the type of plays we have to make, but Trees under assault. It looks like Glaurung is okay with trading there because he knew he wasn't going to be able to make it out. But that well right there, during the second temple phase, if that's gone by the time that comes around, it's going to be trouble for Astral Authority.
Yeah, but that was I like this attempt to try to put that aggression on. They're now being forced off this mid-temple, though, because of the rotations and with that quick phase shift forward for Brightwing. Trying to engage onto APM, big damage forward, and APM will end up going down. So far, so good with this Tracer play.
I mean, we saw Equinox do great things. I remember this map in particular. I remember him blowing up a Lunara at the Summer Regional, but Chimera under assault as he's going to be taken down. Oh! Almost made it out. Now Tree is instantly flying in. He's got to be careful as the hammer rain goes out. But I remember, if he makes plays, he's done it on this map before. He's done it a couple times. He's going to have to be busy the entire game, Jake.
It's true. Just roaming around, constantly trying to be a nuisance and a threat. And at the end of it, looks like a slight advantage when it comes to the temple shots in favor of Denial. Finishing off the mid lane, top fort is very low, and we already saw the pressure applied in bottom earlier, which will be the target for the next phase.
Well, a little bit of experience made up for Astral Authority. They're now soaking this bottom lane, trying to make sure they have complete control, but 2 towers have been taken down. They're going to rotate over, start the siege camp, as is Denial, so a little bit of a trade back and forth. We'll also see probably a priority towards those bruiser camps. They're going to be up at the top here in just a minute as well.
I like this, though. Frozen X is scouting it out. They're actually going to be using that temple to... Oh, they were thinking about it, and they opted to back away. So they're not going to be looking to invade on that camp, but just having that constant presence with Medivh, giving Tracer ideas as to where she might be able to find an opportunity, as she does have that pulse bomb at the ready, and that's essential for her to find those picks.
Yeah, here's the priority. I mean, Denial wanted to see if they could get a little bit done at the bottom, as we see Battery starting to make his way over, kind of playing with that fog of war just a little bit. They catch King Caffeine. He's going to be able to dwarf toss if needed, but Trees continuing to try and get those stacks on his Q as well with his hammering. K1 Pro, that is Tassadar. You are not going to kill him.
Yeah, Tassadar a little bit too slippery. Greymane has started that camp. The fly in for Trees immediately up there with Frozen X, but Glaurung is a little bit too quick with the retreat, and Eyes in the Dark, great utility for him to slip away from bad situations as well.
I love the play on this. They're denying them to be able to grab that, but at the same time, they're not. It's almost like just the threat alone is there. They're forcing them off, and then Astral Authority going back to laning. I mean, they've got to be careful, though, because Denial is about to get this, and there's nobody starting the Bruiser camp on the left side for Astral, so they're going to have to commit resources with Falstad staying in the top lane, but Brightwing's going to be able to counter that just as well and try and counteract a lot of what Trees is going to try and accomplish here.
Yeah, and that bottom temple will be up in just about 12 seconds, as you mentioned. So this is not like a very unfortunate situation, considering they do have to respond to the Bruiser camp. They don't have the Bruiser camp of their own. And I believe their well is not down yet, but it will fall almost immediately if this temple is controlled by Denial.
Yeah, right now Battery recognized that. He is on Johanna, so he's able to stay on here a little bit more. They recognize they still have eyes on Brightwing up at the top, but we have to see a lot of avoidance of some of those skill shots coming in from iDream. And if Li Ming starts landing these shots, it's going to be very, very tough to come back on.
Okay, Battery is receiving quite a bit of poke right now. Frozen X getting in position to throw out on some shields, mitigate some damage. A nice pulse bomb in on Dream with the face shift forward from Brightwing, forces them out of that top lane, but Equinox barely staying alive, will end up getting through that teleporter and surviving. No! Does end up falling.
Yeah, went in on that backside, and now Chimera just barely able to get out. The orb hitting onto Battery at that tail end. Astral Authority is going to be forced to retreat off of this, and just like that, Denial is starting to get a little bit of a lead once again. They're closing in on 10. They're putting the damage onto this fort, and things are starting to look really good for Denial Esports.
Yeah, I mean, structurally, things are going to change like really quick right now. I mean, there's still a bit of ammunition left here. That's going to make the mid-keep quite vulnerable. They're already in position for that mid-keep, and considering they're flexing their heroics while Denial does not have them quite yet, they could go ham if they wanted to go in on one of these forts.
Yeah, they definitely could. I mean, they have that posturing, they have the poke potential with Li Ming there, and of course they're running double support, so they can be a little bit more aggressive, especially when you have those heroics to back it up. But Astral Authority trying to find any opportunity that they can, almost at level 10. They're going to need to clear a little bit. But here's Brightwing coming in, using that phase shift to be able to try and turn the fight around as the polymorph is out. Trees forced to barrel roll out. And Jake, level 11 already. Where's level 10 for Astral?
It's almost here. It's almost here, Jay. How be patient. They're going to get those heroics. Here we go. So they're now on more of an even footing. Master's Touch. Decent progress here so far on the side of Equinox. Frozen X this game. Looking to farm that up as quickly as possible. Slowly just throwing up his Qs. And with the pulse pump in, Caffeine is insanely low, but the heals clutching it out, keeping him topped off.
Yeah, I mean, that is Tracer trying to make plays. If that's not Murd, and that's a dead hero, but they already committed on that, trying to get anybody caught out. They had the opportunity. They didn't commit too much to it, but it's a threat that's going to be there. And again, when Denial has that talent tier advantage, Astral Authority has a lot more problems trying to make plays, but you can see the minute they feel comfortable, they go in.
Yeah, I mean, it's good too, because I mean, it's another minute before we're going to see Avatar back up in action. It does not take long to build up a pulse bomb there on Equinox. He's already at 57 out of 100 and farming it up quickly. So yeah, a good attempt. They nearly got the Murden, and even though it didn't pay off, he did spend the Avatar.
Yeah, he did, and now we see just kind of a traditional laning phase. 3 kills to 3 right now, just a few picks for both teams, and eventually it always comes down, it culminates to a fight a little bit later on. Both these teams have that team fight potential. A lot of it seems to be on the side of a Denial Esports, but they also have the disengage if needed as Equinox. Got to be careful as the portal coming out, seeing if they can collapse on somebody, but with those walls still up, they're not able to put too much pressure on.
And look at Falsehead in the bottom. He's the one that's getting collapsed on now. Trees does still have that Mighty Gust available, dodges the orb, which is nicely done, and will be able to live after casting the Gust.
That's a scary, scary thing when you've got 2 heroes coming down on you, but he's got the tools to be able to defend against that, but 2 temples are going to be spawning here, and Jake, this is not top and bottom, it's middle and bottom, which means boss control is going to be not as much of a threat, but you'll always see these teams kind of rotate down to keep an eye on things or look for a flank around this spot.
Okay, Falstead flew back into mid, so that's going to be a cooldown. Dream does see it comes out, the Bless Shield on him, but the Pulse Bomb going to do a lot of damage. Not enough for the kill. Glaurung goes deep, finds the Li Ming. Will he find the double? He's hit with the Polybomb. It's not going to be enough. The Ancestral will be topping up Johanna, but the 3 remaining members of Astral need to back off.
And this is exactly what we're talking about. They're instantly rotating over for the boss. Glaurung on Kerrigan, Glaurung on Greymane. Have you seen the plays? Did you see him dive and then instantly rotate up the minute he saw he had the opportunity onto Tracer, secure that, kill that, go for the throat? I mean, it's just so dangerous. Glaurung right now is playing like I've never seen him play before. He is calm, collected, and not overcommitting, and he's making plays for his team right now.
So they do make sure they just go up and get some shots here from the mid lane and secure the mid fort, which is a victory in itself. But the boss is continuing to be a threat in the bottom. Brightwing wanted to soak the bottom lane, might have to phase shift up here if they're not able to retreat. But no, she's going to maintain her presence on that bottom shrine.
Astral Authority being forced to rotate back down to defend against that boss, but as you called it, that temple getting a ton of value on the bottom. They're getting a lot of shots, but look for them to possibly try and rotate up to take care of Trees. APM says, if you need me, I'm here. Trees is just going to barrel. That fort is going to be a goner. They're waiting to take the shots until that fort goes down. Get even more value from that temple.
Yeah, focus on the bottom where you have the boss, but Tracer is kind of an issue for APM. It's a very hard matchup to win, especially if Pulse Bomb's available. Not quite ready there with the melee attack at 99 out of 100. Equinox now has it, but gets the shield in from Medivh and retreats away.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of a harassment, but a nice flare coming out from APM there on Brightwing to do quite a bit of damage, and it basically neutralizes a lot of what Equinox wanted to accomplish. But the team fight could be coming in as we see iDream throwing those shots in from Li Ming, but Glaurung under assault. The Polybomb is out. He's going to be just fine. The Condemn is coming in, and now we see Trees getting an early Ancestral, making sure that doesn't happen. But we see King Caffeine going in. The portal's coming out, but the Mighty Gust disengage is going to be there for Astral Authority.
I mean, as you mentioned, that Ancestral heal was just a little bit too much. Falstead had at least 60% of his HP remaining when it connected. They had to spend every single heroic in their kit to disengage that fight and not get anything done, where if you look at the heroics on Denial, they have everything except for Avatar at the ready. They're controlling the bottom temple right now, and that bottom keep is now, well, it's a vulnerability.
Jake, you remember the game yesterday where it seemed like Chimera was late on a lot of stuff? Do you think that played into his mindset here to where he's like, man, I don't want to be late, and maybe that's why he was a little bit early with it?
I think you're right. I think he's just trying to clean up his play, but as a result, maybe being a little bit preemptive, and it could be miscommunication in some scenarios. And yeah, as you mentioned, Medivh with that Master's Touch, unfortunately, that's been reset.
When you die, that goes bye-bye unless you finish that quest, and he has not. Nice Force Wall blocking out the team. Force Wall. Prozanek is going to go down as Glaurung going in, but the return attack as the Polybomb comes out. Battery under assault. He's in a lot of trouble. Goes down. 2 members are down. Astral Authority is getting dominated right now, right in front. A beautiful Force Wall coming out from Tassadar.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is game 3 with Denial up 2-0, and they're now sitting in a commanding position, nearly a 3-level lead. If they manage to secure this map, they will be moving on to the grand finals, and it's not going to end right now, but I'm telling you, they are sitting pretty.
The Mighty Gust trying to salvage that keep or whatever they can in the bottom that whole time. The bottom keep is under assault as well. But we see the pushback. Equinox going in. The shield's coming out. Equinox has got to be very careful as he starts to get out of there. But he doesn't get the Ancestral in time. That is just too much damage, too quick. Frozenek's in a lot of trouble, but Rhaegar goes down. 3 members go down. Jake, this could be the beginning of the end right now.
It very well could be. You mentioned that bottom keep. It's almost dead. Mid keep is under siege. Denial will be sure to confirm that before they back away. And with 2 temples spawning, they're just going to take the safe call. move back to the temples, control them, and just wait for victory, essentially.
I mean, why do you even have to force it? I mean, you have to keep down. The bottom keep is about to go down. These shots are just going to come out. 2 temples. You are not threatened at all by Astral Authority, but you know what? You get to a point, as Astral Authority is right now, to where you're gonna be desperate. You have to do something, and they're gonna have to make a play, and that could be their demise, or it could be where they come back. I'm curious what they're gonna do here, whether they're gonna try and fight, and it looks like they're posturing for it right now.
Okay, well, the benefit is that mid-temple will be focused by both, or the mid lane will be focused by both temples, and it still has a lot of health remaining, so they're not in immediate threat of losing that. But Chimera is very low. The Stormbolt connecting. The shield has to come out from Medivh, but the Dwarf toss in, they find the kill. The gust up from trees is desperation and not enough to save his healer.
Jake, Battery was in so far that it left the back end of his team vulnerable. There was like so much miscommunication going on there as Caffeine just he's battering
him away.
Battery? It feels bad, man. But either way, these shots starting to come out. 2 full temples potentially. I mean, this is just an absolute monster performance by Denial. 2.5 games in, about to make it 3. Speaking of 3, there's a 3-level lead right now.
Yeah, 16. Without that, it's very difficult for Astral to be able to take these fights, but they do not have a choice. They need to deny any pickup. But with losing your false head in that situation, we're going to see a lot of aggression right out of Denial. Force ball should be available. Polybomb trying to stall it out, comes in, and it actually denies it from getting the big play they wanted. But with that pulse bomb, can they get the kill on Brightwing? Yes, that is a big deal here for Astral.
That is a big deal, and we see Astral continuing to go in. This is the play that they have to make. Equinox is in there doing a lot of damage. The Ancestral is going to land to keep Equinox doing damage. Caffeine very low. Uses the Dwarf Toss, but the Pulse Bomb is there. The shield keeps him alive, at least for a moment. But on the backside, Johanna goes down. Caffeine somehow stays alive as K1 Pro is playing like a maniac right now, keeping his team alive. Rhaegar goes down.
What is happening? How did King Caffeine live there? The Muradin trait, the Tassadar shield, all paying off just barely. And the core has started taking damage from the catapults. Falsehead retreating in to try to defend it. Equinox gets the Pulse Bomb, not enough. With that shield, can he live?
Oh!
Yes. And they find the kill. Now Glaurung in a bad spot, getting away, but he's not going to escape this. He's surrounded on all sides.
But Astral Authority is not done yet. They are saying we are not going down without a fight. I'm surprised they were able to turn that around. Medivh came in and saved Tracer there, and then they turned that fight on them. The minute Falstad came back to life, he flew in and turned that around. That looked like Denial was like, all right, we're good.
Yeah, it might have looked like that, and they finally got a win, but it's
All
too
keeps
little
are down.
too late. All keeps are down. The shields didn't even regenerate fully. They're starting to take some pressure, but we will see Denial trying to back away from this. They're looking to retreat. They got their members off that temple, realizing that if they get collapsed, yes, they could lose a lot of momentum here. They're just going to play safe and wait for the next temple.
I mean, they can basically wait this out. One temple, you get level 20 advantage. All of a sudden, all it takes is a couple picks, and then it's going to force Astral to do something. But Caffeine, as we see trees flying in, they're going to try.
Oh my goodness, we've seen so many gusts like this weekend. The Emerald win to disengage. Fawcett goes down very quickly, and that gust was just the last thing they needed.
What? I'm not 100% sure what the Pulse Bomb doesn't seal the deal. I'm not 100% sure what the gust.
We're all confused, Jay Howe. It's okay. APM with the shield, staying alive. King Caffeine just trying to lock down one more member. The Stormbolt does not connect. And we will see the retreat from Astral. Now Denial will just patiently wait. Oh, they're not going to be patient. Excuse me. They have level 20.
Level 20, Greymane, Li Ming. This boss is going to go down very quickly. It's already down to half health. They're doing that. There's absolutely nothing that Astral Authority can do. They're going to come in. They're going to try and do something as Chimera is there. Johanna, I mean, it's just like the threat. But I'm not 100% sure what Chimera is doing as he's locked in by the Force Wall. He's basically stuck in position. The totem goes down. But this is going to be a boss, and I just don't see what Astral Authority is going to get out of this. I mean, obviously...
The fly?
There's the Mighty Gust. Is it in? There it is. There's the Unstoppable. They steal the boss. They are staying alive, but Medivh goes down. Chimera on the backside. Glaurung trying to make plays. Chimera manages to get out. Trees using the barrel roll, but he has got to be very careful. Battery on this backside. That boss might have been a curse, but Battery is going to go down. And now it looks like Denial's posturing up. They're tired of it. The catapults are on the core. The shields are down. It's 87%. They are tired of this. It is 5 versus 3. They said, guys, it's over. Let's finish this.
Alrighty, well, Denial, they are on their march to try to secure this series with a 3-0 win. Falstead goes down, the core down to just 40%, and Denial Esports will be your first team advancing to the grand finals here at PAX West.
Well, I must say that it was a complete dominant performance, and then Astral Authority made desperation plays. It seemed like they were really close to turning that around. Credit to them for not going down without a fight. There's a lot of teams that would have just crumbled under that pressure. Now, yes, they went down 3-0, but a lot of props to Astral Authority through fighting through that and creating one heck of an ending to that game.
Yeah, I mean, they just got desperate. Like you said, they played dirty. It was the knife fight where you throw sand in the eyes of your opponent, and they found the picks, but it was just so late in that situation. They lost all 3 keeps, and you know, when it boiled down to it, Denial was just able to walk in and end it all. But Denial as a team, they have grown so much in so little time, busting out a crazy diverse number of compositions.
I think that their team reels in Glaurung. He was always known to be somebody that needs to make plays.
Right.
On this team, he's part of a core group that makes plays together. I mean, there was just so much. Look at the damage there onto Equinox, and then everybody. Here's Glaurung. He dives over and instantly goes over to get the reset and goes in hard. He gets the blow up. Those plays by Glaurung are what makes you a legend in this game. He's already known for making plays, but sometimes reckless. These 3 games, he made plays completely under control, looking like a superstar.
Yeah, I mean, the Kerrigan, the Greymane, it doesn't matter, always a threat. And even with Equinox putting that mega pressure on with Tracer onto the Brightwing, throwing the pulse bombs out, it just wasn't quite enough to thwart all the power of Denial. I mean, in the end, the kills were something like 3 times as much in that game, maintaining a 2 to 3 level throughout the game. And, you know, just super well played, well deserved from Denial Esports. We've got Trixler over at the stage with Glaurung, and I can't wait to hear what Glau has to say.
That's right, I'm here with Glaurung. Now, Glaurung, on Friday, you and I stood on this very same stage, and we talked about this weekend, your goals for going to BlizzCon, and how much you wanted to make sure that you impressed your fans. And I would say that you have delivered so far, but there's one more match. How's the team feeling moving into it? How's your confidence levels? And what do you have planned for the grand finals?
So our next match is either against Murlocs or Naventic, and both those teams are really scary. We beat Murlocs in the group stage, and I think in the grand finals, if possible, I'd like to play them. Naventic's always been a team that has phenomenal players, great mechanics, good shot calling, and like, if you give them what they want, they'll punish you. So we just have to make sure, going into the next match, whoever we're up against, we keep our cool, draft what we want to play, pick the maps we want, and we should be able to win.
So, if you do play against Murlocs in the grand finals, I want to hear it. What are you guys going to win? 3-0, 3-1, 3-2?
I think Murlocs is a good team, but I think we're on a roll right now. I think we can keep our momentum and 3-0, keep this entire tournament undefeated. That's what I want.
So, my question that I wanted to ask you is, I've been seeing a lot of double support from you guys. Do you have any more tricks in your bags that you guys can pull out if need be, or are you very confident with what you're playing right now?
I feel like we've actually been pretty good about being conservative with our drafts. We've shown like 3 or 4 strategies, but ever since iDream joined the team, he's like the most versatile player I've ever played with, and we have at least a few more.
So I want to ask about K1 Pro, man. K1 Pro had some crazy moments in those last couple of games. Is K1 Pro going to show us something more surprising as well, or is he still going to sit in the back line and just make sure to support when he can?
K1's a god, man. Like, I honestly, half of the things he does, I don't play those heroes, but I don't know how he does it. And I would not be surprised if he just says in draft, I want to play this, and I'll be like, okay. But we'll see.
I love the free form. Well, I'm going to let you go, but thank you so much. Our next match coming up, Naventic versus Murloc Geniuses. We'll be back after a quick break.